One of the reasons why the wars actually might sustain for next couple of years, if not this whole decade, is because the financial conditions of the top economies of the world is not that great. But one sector, which is the only sector where the push can actually happen, is the military sector. I have a very great pedigree, started earning in the top bracket of whatever you can think of in earning India. But I was not that disciplined. My wife was. She started job 2 years after me. And of course, my salary was significantly higher than hers. But turns out today her savings are higher than mine. Purely a function of discipline. If you are seeing a period of good amount of capital is going to come into the market, at that point of time, actually large caps might perform better than even mid cap and small cap.
What's your top 5 sectors do you think that you're optimistic on?
I tend to overweight on that trailing 1 year and trailing 3 year compared to trailing 5 years. I think the next couple of years is going to be very, very good for India, and large cap might benefit more than mid cap and small cap.
Hello, sir. Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure to have you. So I would love to know about your background when you were growing up. How was your relationship with the money?
I have grown in the jungles of Jharkhand. My father is now retired Indian Forest Service, IFS officer. My schooling started with this place called Jhumri Talaiya. But my schooling ended in Ranchi in the same school as Mr. Mahendra Singh Dhoni. In fact, he was just a year senior to me.
Oh.
So we have interacted a bit in our school days. Subsequently, I did my engineering from IIT Kharagpur. Then I decided to do an MBA, which I subsequently, immediately after my engineering, joined at IIM at Calcutta, where I did my MBA in finance and systems. Worked in there for financial services industry for like 6 years, starting with Edelweiss Capital. I worked very closely with one of the founders, co-founders of the firm, Venkat Ramaswamy. After 6 years of working at Edelweiss and a couple of hedge funds, where my job was investing and in private equity, in public markets, the kind of academic bug bit me. And 2012 is when I went on to do my PhD with, again, back to my alma mater at IIM Calcutta. I could do PhD because I was financially free. I had a very good career. So 6 years may be a short time for being financially free, so to say. Post PhD, I've been since 2018. I've been a professor at SP Jain, teaching finance and fintech.
Wow. Were you earning more as an investment banker or as a teacher?
Definitely, I was earning more as an investment banker. I have no doubt about it.
Okay.
Significantly more, multiples more.
Oh.
Money sacrifice has been there. There's no doubt about it. But it's not bad paying as well, academy, on an absolute term. And how long can you chase money is a different question. So, I mean, then no amount is actually sufficient per se.
Now I would like to know about your investment portfolio. So how have you allocated your portfolio?
Right. A mutual fund would be suspect around 70% of the portfolio would be mutual fund. No or a very low amount of fixed deposit. There are better methods of having safeties rather than FDs. Stock market, SIP is a good avenue to come in at the moment. I know a lot of people are saying India is overvalued and stuff like that, but you just can't have enough of a market which is growing, an economy which is growing when none of the world is growing. It deserves a premium. It deserves a good amount of premium. And for protection part, my choice of investment is gold.
Oh, okay.
And physical gold. That has got also an added advantage that if everything fails, that's the last thing that remains. So my strategy is 5 to 10% in physical gold, 60 to 70% in mutual fund. Some debt funds I do on and off, and some cash I keep. So that would be next 20% of the portfolio per se.
Got it.
So that's in terms of the overall investments.
How did you decide which mutual funds should I pick and which stock should I pick?
Yeah, so the question of stock was a bit more difficult because I was working in the same industry.
Yeah.
So because if you work in the same industry, you are supposed to, for whatever investment you do, you have to disclose it to your firm, and there is a whole process behind it and stuff like that. But few stocks which I liked a lot, I kind of invested on and off. But the primary vehicle of investment was mutual fund. So it was more convenient based. So the most convenient way to invest in a mutual fund is just check up a index fund.
Okay.
Why active investment was good at that point of time is because the valuation overall were lower and the ability to stock pick was very high. So index would be top 30 for Sensex and whatever top 50 for Nifty and stuff like that, right? The number of undervalued firms available were pretty large. So the fund managers could do really well by stock picking methods and stuff like that. So yes, that was a good way of investing, no doubt about it. Even my fund, the hedge funds that I invested, they did a lot of return at that point of time, at least prior to 2008. Story changed a bit after 2008.
Yeah.
So in that
Okay. If someone has to make a decision between an active fund or like your index fund or a passive fund, then what's your suggestion? What do you think? What's
definitely
right
active
for
funds.
now?
I would suggest active funds if you have some kind of a thinking where to do, where not to do. If you do not want to engage in too much of thinking, you are like, hey boss, I have a profession, I want to give my time 100% to it, and saving something is happening fine, I just want some good returns, then index fund would still make sense. So index is not that bad idea. You will still end up making 15 to 20% IRR over, let's say, 5-10 years and something of that sort. But that edge of 5-7%, maybe even 10% if you land up in a good fund is something that you might miss. So if you spend just a bit of thinking in, let's say, on a monthly basis, that should make you eligible enough to invest in active funds. I would suggest that.
Got it.
So I have post-marriage, I have been mostly in active fund. And when I say post-marriage is because that's 2015 is when I got married. So that's still 8-9 years.
10 years.
Yeah. So why post-marriage is a big incident for me, because my wife is a savings beast. She is a proper beast in terms of savings. In all her anniversaries and anything, even if I bring her a 10 rupees rose, she starts crying only.
Right.
But if I bring a SIP, she's like, yes, that's a good utilization of money. So not even one gift she has taken from me after marriage. The only gift she has taken is SIP. Whatever, anything I say to her, I want to give to this, that, no, equivalent amount, SIP, you give it to me. I'm fine.
Wow, how cool. In large cap, I personally feel that it still doesn't make that sense, like investing in a large cap active fund. But when I see a mid and small cap, in that active fund is better.
Yeah, the thing with large cap is that they are at good valuations now. They are rich valuations now. But on the flip side is, if you are seeing a period of time where good foreign money can come in, or a good amount of capital is going to come into the market, that point of time actually large caps might perform better than even mid cap and small cap, because these are the only stocks which I have the ability to absorb a lot of money if it comes to the market in a short period of time, right? Hat tip, I think next couple of years is going to be very, very good for India, and large cap might benefit more than mid cap and small cap. But subsequently, mid cap and small cap will catch up, because a lot of money comes, it gets absorbed in large cap initially, but subsequently it trickles down to them, and then they start giving good returns. So if you catch a right time, then large cap might be an answer. But otherwise, for risk averse people, I suggest mid cap in India is good space, very, very good space.
Now, how do you pick your mutual funds? What's your framework? Because there are n number of mutual funds.
So I have a kind of a tiered structure. No time index fund. कुछ नहीं सोचने का है. Somehow बहुत सारा money आ गया. Let's say land has been sold. You have landed up with some big amount of money. ज़्यादा नहीं सोचने का. I put it in index fund and get done with it, right? Some amount of time, choose a diversified fund.
So it's like a Flexi-Cap or a multi-cap.
Yeah, multi-cap, Flexi-Cap. So because then you are leaving the decision, the fund manager has much higher flexibility to move from mid-cap to small cap to large cap and stuff like that, right? But there can be strategies beyond it as well. A good strategy is to look at two metrics. One is the sector, and one is of course the market capitalization, which is large, mid, and small cap, right? So how do you look at the sectors where you invest? If we look from that side of angle, you should see or take a call on which sector is you are thinking might do well. If you are very confident about that sector, then you can choose, let's say, mid cap or small cap of that sector. But if you are somewhat confident about that sector, it's better to choose the large cap of that sector, because even if the sector performs bad, large cap thing will still hold it decently well.
What's your top 5 sectors do you think that will that you're optimistic on?
So where is the world going? War, right? Disturbed all across. There are multiple reasons behind why wars are happening. But one of the reasons why the wars actually might sustain for next couple of years, if not this whole decade, is because the financial conditions of the top economies of the world is not that great. So, but one sector which final remains, or which is the only sector where the push can actually happen, is the military sector. How is military sector different from other sectors? In military sector, the government is the producer. The government is the one who is consuming as well. So military sector is a sector which gets pumped up at the last stages of all the pumping of sectors that have. Look at China. It has pumped up real estate, went through the roof, now it's falling. It has pumped up all kind of sectors everywhere.
True.
Everything is now falling. The only one that remains is military sector, right? So my sense is that the way the world has evolved into this kind of military conflicts, there are ideological issues and stuff like that. But I think the final push comes from this financial part that becomes important for the people. If you have exhausted everything else, the one sector where you can still play is military race, right? So I suspect next half a decade would be a military race for the world. Other thinking is that one of the things that is happening in the broad, again at the world level, you see, is the Gen AI revolution, for example, right? So chat GPTs of the world. So what is the impact of this? The impact of this is going to be not so good for IT services sector, for example, right? And that's where the top-down thinking comes in as well. When it becomes significantly easier to code and stuff like that, companies would tend to insource all their coding works rather than outsource it. So immediate impact of it is going to be on the IT sectors, the behemoths of the today, TCS, Infosys. So then the IT sector is going to underperform other
you're not
sectors per se.
bullish.
So I'm not bullish on the IT sector. So I've taken out of money from all my IT sector stocks. After last year or so, COVID time, they saw really zoom. Infrastructure is good. So if you are buying into the India story, you have to buy into the infrastructure story, and likely the infrastructure story might be a multiple of the India story in terms of the returns that it might generate, right? Other thing that is might not be that obvious, but from a finance metric, it's directly makes sense, is that a bank sector is a direct call on the economy itself, right? So without the banks growing, you can't have the economy growing at all. So taking a call on the Indian economy also becomes taking a call on the banking sector, a leveraged call on the banking sector, right? So if you feel Indian economy is going to do good in short term, banking sector is a good response. A good sector is also consumer sector. The kind of population India has and the kind of people we have in the bottom of the pyramid, when they get more money, the consumption multiplier is going to be higher. The benefit of consumption sector is also it's a good defense sector, in a sense that when the markets are not doing that well, or when the economy is slightly decelerating, somewhat coming down, they tend to outperform. So there is a good defensive sector, and I see them as a good growth sector as well.
So in short, the first military sector you're bullish on, the second is IT sector you're not much bullish on, third is infrastructure and banking, kind of a good also, and the last one is consumer sector.
Yes.
Oh, got it. So we have talked about the top-down sector approach. Now this can help me to select the sectoral mutual funds or thematic mutual funds. But let's say if I want to select a particular Flexi-Cap fund, an active Flexi-Cap fund, then how will I be able to make a decision on that part?
What you have to judge is the quality of the fund manager, and one of the strong indicators of that quality is how he has done in the past. So these days I tend to, because the changes in the economy, the changes in the world are so fast, I tend to overweight on the trailing 1 year and trailing 3 year compared to trailing 5 years, because 5 years is too old in the current VUCA world, so to say.
True.
So 1 year, 3 years is what I overweight at. Traditionally, it was better to look at 5 years, long-term returns. But I think in current era, it's better to look at 1 year and 3 year return. Do not watch 3 months, 6 months return. That is a bad idea. 1 year, 3 year is a fair idea to look at. If you are investing, you are either way thinking what it is 2 into 3 mutual fund houses. So if you are taking flexi fund, you should take, let's say, of HDFC, SBI and others. 2, 3 is always better. So good idea to not keep in just one mutual fund house. Or you can do the other way around. Let's say you're taking long cap of one fund house, take the mid cap of another fund house. So have a diversified fund houses as well. That's, I think, as more and more people are coming to invest, that's, I think, would be a fair idea to think about.
That's a new perspective. How many equity mutuals one should hold?
I would have between 10 and 12, more actually, touching 15 schemes, I think, across 4 or 5 mutual fund houses.
I would love to double down on debt funds part. In debt funds, there has been like one case that happened during COVID time. And then people were like, okay, our debt funds are really good or not, because there are n number of debt funds. How one should select the right debt fund?
I generally look for the portfolio detail, portfolio level, what kind of firms they have reputed names or not names and stuff like that. And accordingly, I kind of invest in them. Medium term is what I go for, not too long term and stuff like that. Equity is still something that I prefer. And I suspect from India's current time period, equity is where you should be.
Now coming to another aspect of finances, I would love to talk about the insurance part. Like, do you have any insurance?
So I have term plans and health insurances.
Okay.
You get term, you get health, nothing else is.
There is one more plan.
ULIP.
Yeah, so could you like please highlight on it, because I see a lot of people just get into the trap of, is
correct.
it good to go for insurance
By
plus
far
investment combo?
By
or
far
insurance has to be separate and investment has
entirely
to
separate. Insurance should be only for the purpose of insurance.
be separate? Okay.
Anything else that insurance company sells you, you are giving free money to the insurance guys. So what do they do? What do they sell? They sell is you get an insurance, which is term insurance, and you have a mutual fund feature attached to it, right?
Yeah.
Some kind of a returns attached to it,
Yeah.
right? So to give you an example, let's say the premium of ULIP, unit linked insurance plan, which is investment plus insurance plan, is X amount. Same X amount, you buy equivalent term insurance and the remaining amount you put it into a PPF, match the insurance amount using term insurance, and the remaining premium goes into your PPF.
God.
That would give you higher returns than the ULIP. Traditionally, that has been the case. So just by combining a term insurance with a PPF, you are able to get better returns than your unit-linked insurance plan. If you combine with mutual fund, you'll get even higher than this per se. If somebody is selling you an insurance not using the return number, but just saying after 20 years you get this much amount, the amount might look large, but if you do it in a per year return format, that will hardly be less than 10% probably, right? So if somebody is selling you any investment product quoting the 20 years ahead number, just say no.
Got it. Now I would love to talk about the another aspect of your finance, that is loans or maybe credit cards. So do you have any loans?
Yeah, I have a home loan. So I have a home loan, but that's the only loan I have.
So when it comes to home loan, then what all things I should remember?
Good chunk of the times, actually PSU banks are comparatively neglected when people look for loans. Comparatively, I'm saying.
Okay.
Right? Because I think private banks push their loans too much. So their salespeople are more aggressive. So you end up taking with private banks. But I think PSU banks are a good bet. I don't have empirical proof of it, so I'm not really sure. But I feel they are more transparent and more faster in adjusting the rates as the rate evolves and stuff like that.
Now, if you want to give an advice to a 30-year-old person who is about to start a family or has started a family, how should they look towards their finances?
It's very difficult to generalize in terms of plan for everybody and stuff like that, right? But one discipline that you must, and I've seen this power of this discipline with my wife, is that do SIP. So I told you about my wife, right? So I have a very great pedigree and stuff like that, and I started earning in the top bracket of whatever you can think of in earning India and stuff like that, and all those things and stuff like that. But I was not that disciplined, my wife was. She started job 2 years after me, and of course my salary was significantly higher than hers. But as it turns out, today her savings are higher than mine, purely a function of discipline. I also suggest prioritize regular savings, which is in markets of FDs over, big real estate investments and stuff like that, right? But a simple discipline of every month saving can take you a long way, really long way.